We rode our bikes from Alicante to Lisbon. Now we continue from Lisbon to Sintra, then along the coast via Figueira da Foz and Aveiro to Porto. We drive along the banks of the Tejo for a while and then leave Lisbon towards Sintra. It's only 40 kilometers there, so we arrive in Sintra in the early afternoon. After a short tour in the old town, we visit the Palacio Nacional de Sintra. The next day, we first take what feels like the most expensive bus all the way up to the Palacio Nacional da Pena. And then we continue to Ericeira. This pony couldn't move anymore. His leash was wrapped around his feet and we freed him from it. Beautiful landscape and beautiful roads without traffic until we come to this gravel road with at least a 15% gradient. We discovered the Castelo de Óbidos by chance. We reach Alcobaça and stay overnight directly opposite the monastery, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is one of the largest monasteries in Portugal, with the largest church of the country. The next day, the next monastery and the next World Heritage Site. A day later, we reach the campsite at Figueira da Foz with its beautiful beach. Here we take a break for a day and visit Figueira da Foz. Well rested, we continue on this wonderful cycle path to Aveiro. It actually goes straight ahead for 28 kilometers on the best asphalt and there is almost no wind.
Ja, das ist ein Traum hier. Ich weiß nicht wie viele Kilometer schon, aber gefühlt ist 10 schon. Fahren wir nur geradeaus. Es ist ein 1A Radweg.
Unsere Radreise durch Spanien und Portugal neigt sich langsam dem Ende. Wir sind jetzt nördlich von Lissabon und haben noch 2 Tage bis nach Porto.
But first we have to cycle to Aveiro today, to Esmoriz tomorrow and to Porto the day after. That's a total of 160 kilometers. In Aveiro there are 3 canals, on which many gondolas ride. That's why Aveiro is also called the Venice of Portugal. Then we get lost in a kind of swampy area that forces us to turn back. We still reach our destination for the day, Es Maurice, and shortly before that we take a look at this church. The road to Porto leads us through this protected landscape area. Even though we are almost in Porto, there's clearly a Sporting Lisbon fan living here. We say goodbye to the Atlantic, and after only 30 kilometers we reach Porto, or rather Gaia, because Porto is the city on the other side of the Douro. Our flight home isn't for another week. Until then, we not only want to see Porto, but also take the train inland to Peso da Regua and stay there for a few days to cycle along the Douro and along the vineyards. On the following day, we first organize the bike boxes for the return flight, then we go to the train station where we get tickets for the journey inland. Afterwards, we explore Porto by bike. We skip the famous bookstore because the queue is too long for us. We drive to the mouth of the Douro in the Atlantic. On the way back, we visit the shop with the colorful sardine cans. We take the slow train to Peso da Regua, and we also have our bikes with us. In the afternoon, we take the bus to Lamego and walk up the 613 steps to the pilgrimage chapel. Today we cycle along the Douro to Pinhao. We drive the whole way on the road, but luckily there isn't much traffic and the landscape is simply a dream. We are in the middle of the growing area for the pot wine, which is then brought to Gaia to be stored there. Vineyards and more vineyards, no matter where you look. Pinhao is a small town with just over 600 inhabitants, and this is where the Rio Pinhao flows into the Douro. And because it was so beautiful, we drive the 26 kilometers back to Peso da Regua on the same road. Before we go back to Porto, we take the train to Barca de Alvo, just before the Spanish border. In Porto, we meet Rod, the Australian cyclist who we met in Ericeira almost 2 weeks ago. What we haven't seen yet, we'll look at in the next 2 days that we still have until we fly home. And finally, we take a tour of the cellars of Graham's port wine.